Today we have Fanta Zero, because this is my favorite soft drink, or as we call it in the South, Coke. Everything that's a soft drink is Coke. I hate that I love this stuff. Hi everyone, it's Tracy from Temperance Tarot, here with my March deck roundup and a few little other things. I got a new little inexpensive $12 clip microphone that I'm trying out for the first time with this video. And I think it's going to mean that I don't have to talk so loudly, which is going to be a bit of a challenge because I do tend to have a big loud mouth anyway, so we'll see how this goes. So let's get started with the decks. One of the decks that I used this month is my Gaian Tarot. This is the Llewellyn edition, not the Schiffer edition. I've had it for a number of years, and I rarely pull it out. I'm getting a little ruthless with my collection again. I don't need to keep decks that I'm going to do three categories of decks, I think, that I'm going to keep. There are some that I am going to keep strictly for collectible purposes. There are some that I'm going to keep for historical or study purposes, and then they're going to be my working decks. And if a deck doesn't fit into that one of those three categories, I think it is going to go for my collection. And the criteria for a working deck for me is a deck that brings me joy. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. When I look at it and it's time to, hey, it's time to pull a card, does the thought of working with this deck make me happy? Or am I going, oh, I have to work with this deck again? This deck, the Gaian Tarot, I'm not, and now I'm immediately breaking my own rules. I'm not getting rid of this one yet, mostly because this one, I didn't get too excited about picking it up and using it, but at the same time, when I used it, it gave me such good readings. So it made sense. It was so clear. I love the guidebook for this one, but I didn't really use it. And this is one of those things, I didn't want to use it because I got an immediate hit off of some of these images and didn't want that immediate hit to be in any way, shape, or form influenced by what the guidebook said. So, and it's the old Llewellyn version. I am hesitant to give it up for collectible purposes, but it also shuffles so well because it's that old Llewellyn cardstock from back when they made the really horrible boxes. But I really like that cardstock. So, don't need to show much of this one. Everybody's seen this one. It's a beautiful deck, and it's going to stay in my collection a bit longer. I keep it in this little tin with the window so that I can see what's in it. And it's not standard tarot size. I found these tins on eBay several years ago, and they work really well for sort of a slightly squarer tarot deck. This is the Vanessa Tarot, which was created by Leonard Narciso. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. And I was hoping in the little white book he'd explain why it was called the Vanessa Tarot, other than it's women, but he doesn't. I do love this Hierophant. I think she's really cheeky. This is a precious little all-female deck, 10 size, very modern. I love the Temperance card too. But I have other decks that I would pull out before this one when I wanted a standard Rider-Waite, even a modern deck, which I'm not much into modern decks. I like some, but not.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Isn't that funny? She thought I said her name. I did not say her name. Did you hear me say her name? So anyway, this deck I think is going to go. Yeah, I'm putting together another box for my local witchy shop because they will take stuff on consignment over there. And if it's mass produced and not hard to get, I'm taking most of those over to the witchy shop. Whereas if I have independently published decks that I'm not going to keep in my collection, I will sell them here. This one is just going to go to my witchy shop. It's adorable and it reads pretty well. It reads really well, but I don't need it in my collection. It's just not something that I reach for, which is why I'm going through these decks again, is to make sure, hey, is this a deck that I really want to reach for? I used Tarot Nefertari this month. I was interested in getting an Egyptian deck, and this one, I mean, let's face it, I don't know. Yeah, it's reading pretty well. It's one of those Lo Scarabeo gold decks that it's beautiful. And I thought it was pretty much a Rider-Waite-Smith deck when I bought it. And for a Lo Scarabeo deck, it was kind of pricey. You know, it was $35, $37, something like that. And I was really excited to get it. And when I started using it, I just couldn't read it. I just couldn't read with it. So this one is also going to leave my collection. It's maybe if I knew more about Egyptian mythology, it would make sense to me. The Little White Book was no help at all. Where's the Little White Book? So here's the Five of Swords. Okay, yeah, the Five of Swords says degradation, destruction, repeal, infamy, disgrace, and loss. I wanted more. I wanted a full-size guidebook with this one. Here's the Eight of Cups. That's a little bit different from our Rider-Waite-Smith typical Eight of Cups. So let's see what that one says. Concreteness, farsightedness, moderation, shyness, lasting love, great joy, celebration, and refund. So Little White Book was absolutely no help. And these images for me, they just didn't give me my intuition. I'm not connected to this artwork style or this culture, I guess, as beautiful as it is. So this deck is going to go. I used the Transformational Tarot this month by Arnell Ando. This is an out-of-print deck made by US Games back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I believe. Goodbye, box. From what I understand, it was one of the first fine arts collage decks. And as much as I hate the borders, I really like this deck. The images make sense to me, and the Little White Book is fabulous. Oh, let's look at Temperance. Here we have Alchemy, which is Temperance. And let's see what the Little White Book says. An exotic woman tilts an urn, pouring water onto the fertile earth. This act denotes the endless cycle of regeneration. Colorful flowers spring up, transformed by the process. Her dark glasses shield the secret magic of the alchemist. Meanings: the blending of opposites, a conscious effort to achieve balance and harmony, creativity and transformation. Alchemy: the mixing of diverse elements in order to create something new. Reversed: in relationships, compromise and a blend of emotion and intellect is needed. Emotions that don't flow stagnate. Every part is essential to the whole. One issue can upset all other aspects of life. So even in that little teeny amount, great Little White Book. And really interesting images. You know, it's not the most well-executed collage work I've ever seen, but it's very intentional and really, really works very well. Unfortunately, this is the period where US Games was having their cards made in Italy, so the cardstock is not the best. And here are the backs. There's lots and lots of bits of me that want to trim off the white borders, but I don't know that would help. Those backs are horrible. And the fronts, you know, the borders on the fronts aren't great either, and we have the copyright thing. But still, all those little bad points aside, I love this deck. It read very well. I was excited to use it. It's definitely staying in my collection. And I'm really glad I got it in the trade, so thank you. I used the Ancestral Path Tarot this month. This is the new version from US Games that is humongous and very hard to get out of the box. Well, harder to get in than out, but I do also have a smaller version of this deck that comes with the full guidebook, and the full guidebook is great because there is a story to each suit, and you can follow through the story of each suit, but it's also not necessary. I didn't pull it out, so I just used it straight up intuitively as a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. And the big cards really do show off the artwork. And I particularly love this Tower card because it really equates the Tower to human ego. It's the shattering of ego. And I really like that particular, that's the way I see it anyway. And I really like cards that show me that shattering of ego type depiction. There are different cultures. There are different cultures for each of the suits. Different stories, like the the Cup suit is Arthurian. The majors are all kind of mixed up. The swords are Japanese, the sacred circles are Native American, and the staves or wands are Egyptian. And they definitely tell a story through the minors. Oh look, she's got the, isn't that interesting? I don't think I pulled this card. It looks like the Kabbalistic Tree of Life with Egyptian hieroglyphs in the center. That's interesting. I know very little about Kabbalah, so. But at the same time, I didn't need to. This deck reads beautifully. This drives me insane. I may have to get a bag for this deck. It's in the box, it's in the box. I pulled out my Wanderer's Tarot this month and gave it another go. This is an independently published deck. I have the black version. There's also a white version. This deck does absolutely nothing for me. I didn't even make it a whole week before I just said, no, not only am I not getting good readings from this deck, but it is bringing me absolutely no joy. It's a beautiful deck. The cardstock is lovely. The edges, I didn't black the edges. They came that way. I think it's black all the way through. They held up nicely. They're a little hard to shuffle, but not terribly hard. But and I understand there's a guidebook that I never got. But it's just not a deck for me. This is not a deck for me. So Wanderer's Tarot is definitely up for sale or trade. If you're interested, hit me up at temptarot@gmail.com. I believe I have a full walkthrough already of this deck on my channel. So if you're interested in seeing the whole deck, you can find the walkthrough. It just comes with this little pamphlet thing that goes into, you know, a little about the suits, a little about the numbers, and then the court cards, which are Philosopher, Goddess, Prophet, and Wanderer. And just a little bit about the majors. And it unfolds into this other thing that if I unfold it, I'll probably never get it folded back again. No. There we go. Told you if I unfolded it, I'd never get it folded back. I also used the Moonchild in March. And I like this deck. The guidebook is really great. It describes the cards. It gives you lots of really good information. I like descriptions of the cards because sometimes I don't see everything. It reads pretty well intuitively without having to look at the book. I'm really surprised that I like this one and the Star Child as much as I do. It's something that's really just not explainable. Why this deck resonates with me and that beautiful Wanderer's Tarot does not. Because this one really, although it does have more people, which I like people. I can read people a whole lot better than I can read symbols. It's still not as robust as a typical Rider-Waite-Smith. I mean, here we have the Ten of Pentacles where we just have discs in the sky and Stonehenge. But I pulled this card in a reading this month, and it gave me so much about the history, and immediately seeing Stonehenge made me think ancestors and history and my family going back and that sort of thing. That it was great. And like this Eight of Cups, I don't think there's a person in that. Oh, there she is. There she is. But yeah, it works. It works for me. I do love the court cards aesthetically. They don't give me a whole lot to read with, but most court cards don't. Yeah, I really like this deck. It's a little less pink than the Star Child, but it's still pink. And it just doesn't bother me the way I thought that pink was going to bother me. So, yeah, this one's staying. This one's staying. I can shuffle it, but it's a bit hard. I used Mage the Awakening Tarot this month, and if you've never heard of this one, this was created for a role-playing game. So it's pretty much standard Rider-Waite-Smith. If you're interested in finding where to find it, go to worldofdarkness.com. I think it's still available there. If you see it on eBay and it's $150, don't pay $150 for it, because I got it directly from this website for like $30 or something. The cardstock is fine. It's not wonderful. It's not horrible. It's very sort of anime style. We'll spend a little more time with this one. But the really cool thing about this deck is the cup suit. This is a collaborative deck. It was drawn by, I think, about 4 different artists. You can kind of tell when you move from one artist to the next, but here we go. The cups were illustrated by Stephanie Puimun-Law. I think that's how you pronounce her name, the lady that did the Shadowscapes Tarot. So that's the reason that I got this deck, was for the cup suit in particular. But it's a lovely deck, and it reads really pretty well. Pretty standard Rider-Waite-Smith. If you want to see a full walkthrough, just let me know, and I will, put it in order and do a full walkthrough later. But it's really cool. And then when you run across a cup, I mean, it's so obvious the Shadowscapes author, the Shadowscapes creator. I mean, look at those cups. They're just so gorgeous. See, shuffles beautifully. Not technically reversible, but... And the last tarot deck that I used this month, I used a lot of tarot decks this month. I didn't use many oracle decks, so, is the Crow Tarot. I know I tend to say, oh, I like decks with people in them. I like people in my decks. I don't like animal decks. Yeah, I love this deck. I love this deck. I think it is beautiful. I love the backs. I love really simple patterned backs that have no borders. Yeah, it really gets across the Rider-Waite-Smith meanings very, very well. And I love looking at the artwork, particularly the water. Anytime there's water, oh, it's beautiful. So yeah, it read well for me. I was excited to use it. I think it's just gorgeous. For Oracle decks, there are only two that I used for more than a couple of days this month that I want to talk about. And the first is Whispers of Lord Ganesh. I heard so many beautiful things about this deck, and you've seen it everywhere. It's all over the place. And it is a beautiful deck. And I guess because Ganesh is the remover of obstacles, this is a deck that is very heavily driven by overcoming problems. So when I pulled cards for this, it was like the problem that you're trying to overcome will be solved by this, this, or this. And when I pull Oracle cards, I'm not always trying to overcome a problem. So it really didn't fit for where I am right now in my situation. But I really did like the messages. So I'm going to keep that in mind and keep it in my collection to pull out when I am actually running into an obstacle that I need to figure out how to get around. Then I'm absolutely going to come to this deck for that sort of advice and reading. But for a general pull a day to give me some guidance, I don't think this is the deck for that. So, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it for a while and use it to help remove obstacles. And here we go with the last Oracle deck I used this month, which is the Animal Kin Oracle, which again, I don't particularly like animal decks, but I love this deck. I think this is a fabulous deck. This is a great deck for pulling for daily guidance, just to get a good general overview and message for the day. This deck does that beautifully. And it's been everywhere, so I don't need to show it, you know, or even talk about how the guidebook is structured. It does have a couple of fantasy creatures in it that I'm not sure I'm going to keep in the deck because I don't know that they belong. You know, I just don't know that this beautiful deck about actual physical animals that live on Earth with us goes with a unicorn or a phoenix. So there you have it. Those are the decks that I've used this month. This one's definitely staying in my collection as well. Now we're going to go on a little field trip because I have a few new altar items that I want to show you. Okay, I'm going to do my very best not to make you ill by too much moving around. But the first thing you'll notice is I have a new runner cloth on my altar table. And I got this from the lovely Peggy at Sparks Creations. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is way prettier in person than it shows up on camera. And that's what the underside looks like, so that I have two very different patterns when I want something different. Now, this little guy, I saw on one of Avalon Cameron's videos that she had one of those, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to find one of those. And then I went into my local witchy shop, and there it was for $12, so I had to have it. This is amethyst with cacaxonite inclusions. I really just fell in love with this stone. I think it's very interesting. I found one of these before at last year's gem show. It's just a small piece of it, but you can see it has a band of amethyst and then it gets clear And then we have these tadpole-like inclusions. I love it. I think it's gorgeous. There was a Mind, Body, Spirit fair at a hotel near me, which I didn't think ever happened. So I went and spent some money there. I found this. It is, you can see that it's still got some of its points, but it's also been polished to a certain degree. It's smoky quartz and amethyst together. And it's Celestial. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, Celestial. Showed you how much I paid for it. But I just held it in my hand and it said, come home with me, come home with me. I got a new piece of clear quartz because I love clear quartz and I can never ever have enough of it. It's just beautiful. And then okay, let me put that down. The last thing is this votive holder that I got from a shop in the mall, of all places, that specializes in things from my region. This is made out of oyster shells, which, if you've been down to the beach near where I live, oysters, these kinds of oysters are everywhere. And I absolutely fell in love with this, that they had taken these oyster shells and glued them together to make a votive holder. So that's my new candle holder. And that is all from me today. Thank you so much for watching and have a fabulous day.